Welcome to the 4Q podcast. My name is Sheena. I'm a therapist who specializes in anxiety, burnout, and relationship issues, and truthfully, all the underlying stuff that brings that forward. I'm also a business coach. So in this podcast, we talk all things life, business, love, relationships, and everything in between. So let's get into today's episode. As a therapist, how I spot imposter syndrome and how you can get over it. Hey, welcome back. It's Sheena here, and this is so interesting. You know, imposter syndrome gets thrown around a lot, and for the health professionals following me in this podcast, you'll know that my signature program is Imposter to Professional. My signature training hub, all of that is based around imposter syndrome. It's literally, how can I get you from imposter syndrome to being the professional and the person you were born to be? And I do that in the mastermind as well. So wherever you're at. So let's get into how can I spot it in people and how you can get over it. So what's really interesting is imposter syndrome sometimes looks like people overdoing it. Now, what do I mean by this? So I've worked a lot on my imposter syndrome, and for a lot of people, you'll know that I do a lot of work, and when I work with you, I really practice getting you to step into the person you want to be, the person who already has achieved the things you want to achieve, who is living the life you want to achieve, and act as if, what would they do in this situation? How would they act? How would they move? What behaviors would they have? What would they be telling you to do? Okay. And there's something about that, both neurologically, psychologically, and spiritually, that really is effective. Now, coming back to how that looks like for me is when I have an idea about something, like an offer that I want to put out to my clients, or, you know, a new program I want to do, or even a podcast episode like this one. I was actually listening to another podcast where someone was joking about imposter syndrome. I had an idea about it, and I went and I'm sitting in my car actually recording this podcast. Is it glamorous? No, I'm not using all, the podcast equipment that I could be using, but I'm taking action while the inspiration is hot. I'm moving, I'm just doing while I have the thought there. I'm just doing, and speed really helps, really helps in momentum, in achieving the things you want to achieve, but also taking things off the mental checklist that we all have. So when you have an idea and you sit on it, don't get me wrong, I think you should sit on some things and let them ruminate and simmer when you haven't quite got the clarity you need yet. I think it's important to talk about it, simmer it, and then action, but not too long. Whereas sometimes if you wait too long, it just doesn't get the momentum you need. So the thing about, I'm finding with a lot of really successful athletes, entrepreneurs, people who are really at the top of their game and the industry leaders, is they move fast with trying something new. And I used to not do that. So now, an example of this is that I had an idea about this podcast. Could I have gone home and made some dot points and written out what I was going to say and got some references and, really wrote a perfect description that's perfect for SEO and all of that? Absolutely. At my current stage of life, where I'm a mum and I'm working 20 hours a week and I'm still taking care of my health and I'm taking care of my mental health, that kind of stuff takes up a lot of time. So instead of a podcast taking me 20 minutes to record in my car, with all of that extra stuff, it might take 60 minutes. And then I might use more energy, more frustration. Okay? And so linking this to imposter syndrome, what I see is that people overdo it when they've got imposter syndrome. They are trying to control how people perceive them when they have that imposter syndrome coming up for them. So if they're worried that Margaret's going to have an opinion, or their work colleague, or someone they currently work with, especially when you're doing the side hustle on, you're doing part-time work, part-time business, I know for sure I had a fear of colleagues who were, in my eyes, more advanced than me, had more experience than me, were in a higher position than me, but they weren't doing business. And so I was worried about them stumbling along and going, oh, I didn't know Sheena does this. Oh, look what she's talking about. Oh, why is she on TikTok? Why is she in a reel? Why does she think that she can have a podcast? Of course, all of those thoughts rang true for me. But now I just do it. So what I mean by this is I can spot it when it looks like this. It looks like when someone has the most perfect posts and there's nothing errors in it, but it doesn't have that perfect, it doesn't have that real connection point to it. So it's just perfectly curated, for example. So I know a person who posted a post and the context of it completely made sense, but it had a spelling mistake in the slides. It was a carousel slide, and I think it had a spelling mistake both in the slides and in the caption. But you got the gist of what they were saying. It wasn't confusing, when you read a spelling mistake and it's very clear what the person is saying. They deleted the post, even though it was getting really good engagement, and they reposted it and said, please engage with this again. You can see perfectionism and imposter syndrome really are there, because perfectionism and imposter syndrome are sisters. They work together. Perfectionism is when I can't do anything else until this is to an extremely high standard. I can't think about anything else. I can't do anything else. So I can't let anybody over or have anyone around unless my house is perfect. It's hindering relationships because you might say, oh, someone can't come over, or I can't see such and such because the house is not perfect. I'm trying to curate an image of someone who has an extremely tidy house. I'm a clean person. I am very organized. I'm put together. Now, why I find that interesting, that whole thing, is because Instagram and TikTok are two very different platforms, and Instagram is for people with imposter syndrome and perfectionism. And don't get me wrong, I'm on both apps and I get most of my clients through Instagram. But it's interesting that TikTok is absolutely blowing up the last few years. And I think part of that is because we're sort of getting over the perfectly curated, perfectly worded, perfectly make-up image that Instagram has. And a lot of people are sort of sick of seeing that. We're very aware of influencers and that, life is not like that. But Instagram still has this vibe of it's very aesthetic. It's very perfect. It's very put together. You have to curate really good carousel posts, because otherwise you look unprofessional. It's still almost like a very professional space. Whereas TikTok, I know therapists who are rocking up with a bun, no makeup, in their pajamas and talking about really serious things like trauma, right? It's so real. They're like, oh, I haven't washed my hair in 3 days, but I had to get this idea out to you guys. it's tackling that imposter syndrome because it's tackling perfectionism, because it's going, this is just who I am and how I speak and what my life is like. And I'm not trying to curate an image for you. I'm actually just rocking up here for you as I am. And I think you're going to see more of that rise coming up. But I think that's the thing, is that that's how I can spot it, is when there is this curation of an image. And you can sort of feel that in people when they're being inauthentic. There's like you can't, and sometimes you can't quite put your finger on it. You know, it's like, sometimes it's almost like a fake vulnerability, or there's just some people where you get the sense that even if they show a bit of mess or whatever, it's almost like I'm trying to overcompensate now, you know? And what I'm getting at for you is that if you've got imposter syndrome, like if you feel like, who am I to do this? Who am I to do this? One is, I want you to step into that future self. Again, for those of you listening who are my current clients, go listen to some of the meditations I've got around your future self and visualizing. And I do have a couple on YouTube. So if you guys haven't checked out my YouTube channel yet, I'm going to be more active there, just putting visualizations and random videos there. Again, not perfect. I'm not trying to curate something. I'm literally like, I'm recording this visualization. I'm doing this for my clients in sessions anyway. Why not put it up on YouTube so more people can benefit from this and actually see how powerful visualization is in transforming your relationship, your business, all of that. So if you're someone who you go, yeah, I've got imposter syndrome about this particular area of my life, step into the person in the future of you who's already absolutely killing it in that area, who doesn't have that. So for example, sometimes I've just gone back to the gym, and admittedly I have a bit of imposter syndrome, not because I've used to be I used to go to the gym quite a lot. So it's not like I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Not like that, but more that my body right now probably does not reflect that I go to the gym, because I don't. I haven't been, right? And there is a part of me that still, to this day, and for most millennials, I know that we all share this, that image of you're supposed to look a certain way and be a certain way. So when I'm around sort of younger generation, first of all, I'm like, I'm dressed like a millennial right now, and I'm going to own that. But I am finding that I overcompensate of, trying to wear the socks and wear certain things that I wouldn't normally wear to the gym. You know, like I never used to wear bike shorts to the gym, but now obviously that's what people wear. And it's like, okay, get with the time, Sheena. But that didn't come because I wanted to do that per se. I think there was a part of me that felt that imposter syndrome of people think I don't belong here. And so you can see, like, I'm trying to curate an image perhaps of, yeah, I belong here. And again, you can tie that into a negative core belief that I have about not belonging. So you can see how all of this tracks back to your deepest stuff. And if you don't know what negative core beliefs are, just search in this podcast for that episode. It's a really good one, because I think a lot of people get that wrong. I hear a lot of coaches and, people who listen to hear someone say something once, but it's actually a psychological concept, negative core beliefs, and we all have it. It's about your not good enough story. So your imposter syndrome, your perfectionism will often be linked to any unresolved negative core beliefs you have, or unresolved things about you. So for example, let's say that same person about the spelling mistake, and I don't know them personally, so just letting you know that, But perhaps there's something around maybe they have a negative core belief like, I'm not good enough because I'm not intelligent. Maybe they have this fear that they're not actually as smart as what people think they are, or they don't actually think they're smart. Like somehow they just wung it and they've just got the life that they have, and it's not true. But when we don't address these, or when we're not aware of it, it really can have an impact in our life, because the thing about negative core beliefs is we actually can't shift them too much, sadly. But we can be aware of when they're showing up and act differently, or choose to not let it trigger us. So, for example, I've been quite open about the fact that, we all have several negative core beliefs and positive core beliefs. And one of my negative core beliefs, that's a very common one for women and a lot of people, is I have a negative core belief that I don't belong. And again, or, you could tie that to other things of I'm not likable, lovable, etc. There's this thing in me of, am I really likable? Do people like me? Do I belong? And that obviously comes from certain experiences through my childhood, in my teenage years, that really solidify a belief, because a belief doesn't get solidified until you have an experience that solidifies it. And so, again, if somebody has a negative core belief of I'm not intelligent, perhaps they had a classmate, maybe they mispronounced a word, and their classmate goes, oh, you're so stupid, you're so dumb, who can't pronounce that? Okay, that's the first experience. Next experience is they're reading out loud in class and they accidentally miss a sentence, because when you're young, that often happens. I remember when people were reading out loud, that would happen quite a lot. And somebody pays them out again, or the teacher really holds them accountable. It adds up. Then the next time they go into a test, they're already nervous. Maybe it's a reading test or an exam, and they're going, oh my gosh, they've got this feeling. And because of the nerves and anxiety, they don't do well. Another experience that confirms for that person, I'm not smart or intelligent. And obviously there's so much work that can be done around unpacking that. It gets confirmed over and over and over till it's an unconscious negative core belief. Now, that's where imposter syndrome really shows up, is that if you feel like somehow you just wung it, like you don't really earn what you have. The partner, you somehow trapped your partner, you're not really that awesome, or your friends are just your friends because they're being nice, like you're not really that likable, or I don't know how I'm a good practitioner, or I'm a good business owner, or whatever it is, I just kind of got here. You did that. You're amazing. And you get to choose who you be, how you are, how you act every single day. I don't know if you've heard this expression, and it comes a bit from the spiritual place, but again, you can see a psychological space for this too. It's be, do, have. Not the other way round. And what they mean by that is be the person who you want to be. So again, talking this visualization, show up as the person who has already done all the things you want to do, who has all the characteristics you want to have, is already living the life that you want to live. Be them. Even if it feels like an act, even if whatever you need to do. And again, for those in the mastermind, we have an embodiment practice. And for those not, you can look this up, but there's embodiment practices, visualizations where you literally have exercises to step into this role, this person, this character, and really actually feel like you're them. So first step is be. then go do the actions that that person would do. And then the third piece is you will then have everything they have. I know it sounds really simplistic to say it like that, and there's so much more to it, but I hope that that clicks something for you. It's not do things first, then be the person, then have, or it's not do, have, and be. Like, you're not going to do the things and then get everything you want and then you're going to be this amazing person. Be that person now. Then go do the action. And then have everything that your heart desires. So I hope that that was really helpful for you in terms of imposter syndrome and negative core beliefs and really addressing that and the perfectionism, the sisterhood there. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to message me. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, or if it just blew your mind, let me know. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And we are looking at getting some more reviews on our podcast. So if this clicked something for you in any way and you have 2 minutes up your sleeve to leave a positive review, either on on Spotify or Apple or wherever you're listening, that really does make a big impact on how many people we reach. So much love to you, beautiful soul. I am so happy that you have come for another episode of the 4Q podcast, and I will see you next time. Much love from Sheena.